Vanakkam. Welcome to this course on classics in neuroscience. In this intro video, I am going to be speaking about what is the purpose of this course, what is the course going to cover, and what will you learn by the end of this course. Essentially, this course uses, at least 2/3 of this course uses Gordon Shepherd's book, which is this book, Creating Modern Neuroscience, essentially focusing on the groundbreaking works in the field of neuroscience in the 1940s and 1950s. 1940s and 1950s happened to be the golden years of neuroscience. So this book essentially covers or chronicles the historical outline. Actually, we start a little earlier. It usually builds the story from before, but predominant focus is on the years from 1940 to 1950 that practically shaped what is today's neuroscience. Today's neuroscience means modern neuroscience. Why do we study history? What is the purpose of doing this? Because as Isaac Newton said, we are interested in standing on the shoulders of giants. We are not interested in recreating the wheel or reinventing the wheel. If we learn the approach that is taken by the pioneers, by the legends of the field, maybe it will inspire us for new innovation. So that's the idea, that's the purpose. So old is also gold. New ideas are great, but there is always something that we can pick up from old ideas. This is a continuing thread in the entire course. This is a continuing theme where I'll return back and say that, look, this is how they did their research. This is what inspired them, so that we can also take that inspiration and use it in our own research on neuroscience. So what are the objectives? To explore the origins of what is today neuroscience or modern neuroscience, the creative scientific process that is used in modern neuroscience, how early discoveries essentially shape our current thinking, and how we can connect the breakthroughs that are groundbreaking work that happened in the 1940s and 50s to present day neuroscience. So the course is structured as follows. In the first week, we focus not entirely on neuroscience, essentially more biology. Why do we have to study history? What is the purpose in detail? And DNA and early genetics and works on these topics. Second week, we focus on growth factor, neurotransmitters. And in the third week, we focus on synapses. So we properly enter neuroscience once we enter synapses, actually with neurotransmitters, but further with synapses and action potentials, and then synaptic potentials, receptor potentials, and dendrites. This. So here you see the DNA structure. This is the DNA part, and axons, and essentially the structure of a neuron. This is the structure of a neuron, and this is the neurotransmitter in the neuromuscular junction. And this describes the glass micropipette based recording of electropotential. So electrophysiological studies. Then we focus on neural circuits in the spinal cord, retina, cortex. Then we focus on behavior, learning, memory, higher order functions. Then we start looking at brain imaging. How did imaging even evolve? What were the first ideas in imaging? Because present day imaging is far more advanced when compared with how imaging first emerged. How the first lessons in imaging continue to inform the current research in biomedical imaging, for example, or especially in neuroimaging. Then we take a small detour and we focus on psychopharmacology, psychiatry and psychopharmacology and theoretical neuroscience. This essentially covers the entire book of Creating Modern Neuroscience by Gordon Shepherd. Then it is my interest to focus a little bit on Nobel Prize winning works. Now, that is what actually inspired me to propose this course. Essentially, the idea of using legendary classical Nobel Prize winning works and to discuss that or dissect that and to use that as learning in our own research. That is the idea. So seen here are some of the steps in how neuroscience informed computer science, because artificial intelligence, understanding of artificial intelligence essentially has happened because of knowledge that we have gained from neuroscience, right? So this is these are, or at least you can claim that neuroscience has served as an inspiration to artificial intelligence. As I suggested, we will look at Nobel Prize winning works of Cahal, Robert Barani and Sherrington in week 9. Excellent scientists, the constraints with which they worked and the detail, the experimental approach and the elegance of their experimental approaches, phenomenal researchers, and how much suffering they had to go through for collecting that kind of data, right? Today we will have to look back and get inspiration from that, especially the kind of work that Cahal did. Then Adrian, Hodgkin and Huxley, electrophysiology, classic electrophysiology work by Adrian and his experimental setup, such an inspiration, continue to inspire electrophysiology today. Right? And of course, the most famous neuroscience work is the work by Hodgkin and Huxley. So my idea here is to inform not just Hodgkin and Huxley, but there are so many others who have won Nobel Prize working in neuroscience, mostly in the fields of physiology or medicine, sometimes in other fields also. For example, Jens Christian Skou won in chemistry. Then the contributions of Bernard Katz in studying the neurotransmitters and Roger Sperry and Hubel and Wiesel in studying the lateralization, and Nobel and Wiesel in their visual neuroscience. Such a phenomenal set of experiments. The first proper demonstration of neuroplasticity in the living nervous system. Such a brilliant set of experiments by Hubel and Wiesel. There's a big book on this topic which inspired me to go deeper into the works of Hubel and Wiesel. Then the work of Jens Christian Skou, who consistently worked for several decades on a single topic and went on to win the Nobel Prize in chemistry for his work to identify the sodium-potassium pump. Then the work of Arvid Carlson, Eric Kandel and Paul Greengard on neurotransmitters, right, and on learning and memory, for example. Right. Phenomenal contributions by all these grand scientists. So the idea here is to inspire you by discussing works of legendary researchers in the field of neuroscience. Tighten your seatbelts. I welcome you for this excellent and extraordinary journey of discovery and learning. Welcome to Classics in Neuroscience.